Of course, I don't agree. And let me educate Mr. Dan Orlovsky about something. You know, I want to talk about you personally, Dan Orlovsky, because let your brother Stephen A. Smith come in here and help you out a little bit. You are an exceptional football mind and an exceptional football analyst. When contract negotiations come up, I want you to know that that very clip right there could be used against you. And I'm going to tell you why it could be used against you. Because essentially you've ignored the number one rule when it comes to negotiations. You get what the market will allow you to get. That's what the hell your value is. It ain't you looking at somebody or somebody looking at you and defining what's good or what's great. It's about what the market allows. Now, we are living in a world where Russell Wilson is making 35, Aaron Rodgers is making 34. You've got Deshaun Watson making 39. You've got Patrick Mahomes making 45. And the Dallas Cowboys are in a situation because they franchised Dak Prescott last year. If you franchise him this year, it's going to cost $37 million against you. And obviously, if you think about trying to do it next year, which you won't do because it's going to cost you $50 million, which gives him all the leverage in the world. So because of that leverage, Dan Orlovsky, now we've got a situation here. If you're willing to pay him $37 million, you trying to tell me instead of paying him $37 million for 1 year, you don't want to take care of him and add about $2 or $3 more million to the mix so you can take care of him for the next 4 or 5 and be done with it and have peace and harmony within your franchise at the quarterback position? That would be the smart way to go about doing things. So you could talk about Dak Prescott being good. I think he's better than good. You're 42-27 as a starter. You've got a near 3-to-1 turn TD to interception ratio. When you're on the football field, you've taken him to the playoff twice. You've won a playoff game, okay? In your 4 years as a starter, up until you got injured last year in Game 5, you hadn't missed a single game. It was back page news when you missed a practice. When he wasn't in the lineup, we saw all of a sudden the offensive line looked even worse. Andy Dalton got exposed. Ezekiel Elliott didn't look like himself. Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb and those boys, as well as talented as they are and as much as they can play, they didn't look as formidable without him on the football field. And don't even get me started with leadership in the locker room or lack thereof. And so when you take all of those things into consideration and you consider the fact that we're talking about America's team and you understand the cachet that comes along with it, you take care of the one that you've got, the one that's produced for you, and that is the route you go into. It ain't about, oh, he's very good, but you don't play him great money. Well, guess what? To the Dallas Cowboys, he's pretty damn great because they flat out stink without him. And that is where the marketability comes from. And that is why you give Dak Prescott the money and say, I'm done with it. Whether you think he's worth it or not. If it ain't 40, it's 38. So damn what? If you got to lock him up and get rid of this problem for the next 3 or 4 years.
Now, I got to respond to what you just said first, Stephen A., how you started before I get to you, Dan. Number one, you don't have to be irrational just because the market's irrational. And I think that's been my point about quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are overpaid. There is a cap there so that people like Dan will come on TV and say, hey, you want to win Super Bowls or you want to be the highest paid? All a cap does, a hard cap, is funnel money from the players to the owners. And because of that system, quarterbacks take too much of a percentage of the cap. Now, Dan, I believe your point is Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady obviously still showed it. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, they're worth it. But you better be sure your guy is worth it before you give him that money. And even if it is, it could be a handicap to you the way it is Russell Wilson in Seattle. Okay, that's one. But here's why actually Stephen A. is right in this case, and you're wrong, Dan, because I had the exact same point of view you do now a year ago. A year ago, I had the same point of view as you. 3 things happened, okay? That means that Jerry Jones has lost the negotiation. It played out. Jones was taking a certain position. He has now lost, and it's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if. It's just he's going to have to come forward and say, Dak beat me. Here are the 3 things that happened. 1, Andy Dalton was much worse than Dak. Like, I thought Dak is good, not great. Maybe he's on his way to being great. Andy Dalton's a good backup. There was no comparison in that offense when Dalton was in and Dak was out. That's 1. That gives Dak the leverage Stephen A. is talking about. 2, no one else in the division has a quarterback. They'd be the only franchise with a real star quarterback, like a seriously above-average quarterback. That gives them a huge opportunity in the next couple of years to host playoff games. If you sign Dak, you have a really good chance to have home playoff games every year in the next several years. That's two. And three, to Stephen A's point, the franchise tag is $37 million. Next year it's over 50, and you got to pay it all in 1 year. It's a cap hit. So really, what this is, it's true. We all know what this is. It's 3 years around 120. The Wentz signing was a mistake. I thought so at the time. It proved to be a mistake. The Goff signing was a mistake. I thought so at the time. It proved to be a mistake. I thought signing Dak to the same deal would have been a mistake a year ago. At this point, things have changed. The cap's going to go up. Quarterbacks are making more. You are terrible without Dak. You're good with him. You're going to have to pay him.
All right, I think Max makes a lot of good points. Now, first of all, Stephen A., when you use the market, Max points are great. I'm going to use the analogy of real estate, right? If I want to go buy a house, and I'm just going to use random numbers here, okay? Let's say my net worth is $1 million. That's a lot of money. Well, I want to go buy this house, and the market dictates that it's $800,000. Well, I want to buy it, but it's not worth $800,000, but the market tells me it is. Is that a smart investment by me? Because then I don't have any money to do anything else. All I'm going to do is be house poor. I got the house that I wanted, and the market dictated that it should cost me that much money. I can't do anything else. So just because the market and he's the next guy up does not make it smart business sense for the team or the player. Max, you mentioned, and that's been my point all along, the biggest question is, what does Dak Prescott want? Here's the thing. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, you talk like Dak Prescott's a bum. No, I don't. I talk like Dak Prescott is a good quarterback. I have never said anything other than Dak Prescott's a good quarterback. I want somebody, whether it's either of you two, Molly, someone at home, to tell me when Dak has been great, when he's elevated. Because Stephen A., you point the win-loss record and the stats. Absolutely. When your quarterback's cheap, you can spend a lot of money elsewhere. That helps the quarterback play well. It helps you win games. Outside of 2016, that's 5 years ago. The last 4 years, they're 29 and 25. That's good, right? They average 23 points a game. That's good. So what does Dak want? Does Dak want to be the highest paid quarterback in football? Yes, the way he's business sensed that, he's earned that right then. So go ahead and do that. But understand, you're not going to win doing that. It's almost impossible. Look at what happened in Seattle. Max, you referenced Philadelphia and Los Angeles. How do the Cowboys not become those two teams 2 years from now? How do they focus on not doing that? So what do they want?
Short-term deal, 3 years.
My next question would be this. Once you determine or decide to pay him great player money, that Deshaun, Rodgers, Mahomes, that world money, I need someone to tell me if they are 100% confident that the Cowboys can win, legit win, NFC title, Super Bowl, and they believe that Dak will carry a subpar roster, because that's what happens to your roster. You mentioned Andy Dalton. Yes, Dak is better than Andy Dalton. We all know that, but by a significant margin, because he's one of the top 10, 12 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. That offense was absolutely decimated. I think the division point is very good, that you can feel confident winning a division. But at the end of the day, this comes down to